In this programme, we will be looking at how to write school improvement plans. We will be meeting heads, school improvement partners, and an Ofsted inspector. They'll have a wealth of experience about how to draft and then implement, monitor, and evaluate school development plans. Consultation is seen as the key to writing a successful plan, but at Lentrise Primary, Brenda Bigland believes collaboration needs to be firmly managed by any head embarking on school improvement planning.
When I start writing a SIP, I start with my senior management team. I think it's essential to actually try and develop a framework, something that people can look at, because I think if you start by going into a staff room and getting absolutely everyone throwing their ideas in the pot, sometimes you can get an awful lot of hot air and very little end result. So from my point of view, I want to put a skeleton together. I want a structure that says, okay, this is our starting point. So senior management team start by looking at where we currently are in the school. What are we doing? What does assessment of the school, evaluation of the school tell us are our key skills, and what are the areas for development? And those areas for development are the things we start with.
School improvement planning starts just after Christmas. To start off with, we put up bits of paper in the staff room which have subject headings on, and that's the opportunity for any member of staff to put down anything which they think should be on the school improvement plan. Some of it may be filtered out by subject leaders, but some of it will make it through to the final process.
Pen or pencil ready? What is the total cost of a...
The subject leader plans are hooked onto the part that I write, and the part I write will be very much more generic. So this year, for example, it's going to contain sections on assessment for learning, assessing pupil progress, and how we can support learners in their learning, and the other subjects plans will be hung on to that.
Well done. Well done.
Preparing a school improvement plan can be daunting. At Ashland School, newly appointed first-time head James Chaplin is consulting an old hand.
And one of the things we've been discussing on the telephone recently is, of course, your priority now of putting together your first school improvement plan. What do you think are going to be your key issues that you're contemplating as you put that document together?
Well, I think one of the things for me is making sure that the people that in the school feel that they've been involved in that. I feel myself that I need to take a bit more of a lead on things than perhaps you might do in a different circumstance. But I'm going to need to make sure that everybody feels like that they've been consulted and collaborated with. Sort of got 80 staff out there. You know, the things that I think are the right way forward for Ashlands aren't necessarily going to be the same for every single one of those other members of staff, and they may or they may not let me know that. But I've got to be true to what I think are the core values that we need to focus on here at this school.
My strong advice from a number of different roles that I've had over the years to heads taking over schools which are basically up and running is run with the plan that's there already. Watch and wait for a term or a term and a half, because then you will know much more than you ever will by reading and looking from outside exactly how the direction needs to be developed to move the school forward.
As an inspectorate, Ofsted does not give guidance on the writing of SIPs, but will look at the impact the plan is having on improvement.
The school itself must have a clear agenda and a clear vision for improvement, but actually the most successful plans are the ones that take the people with them in the implementation. So it's absolutely crucial to involve the people who are implementing the plan in its design.
With no prescribed way to write a school development plan, heads can choose from a number of models.
I see ones which are 5 sheets of paper and they've based it around every child, the 5 outcomes for every child matters, to ones which are presented to you in a booklet form, to ones which have been presented to you as a mind map. And absolutely interactively, it was amazing.
A school improvement plan will have to have detail that shows all those who are going to read it, governors and parents and so on, how improvement actions are going to be taken. However, in my opinion, most people will not read that much detail, and we always have a school improvement plan that is written on one side of A4, an A4 sheet that's divided into 4 sectors, and those key bullet points for improvements are listed for everybody to see at a glance.
It's actually more important to get on with the plan than to ensure that all the I's are dotted and all the T's are crossed, because some of the best plans are actually not the best written plans.
Helping Peter Hepburn get on with Adderfield School's plan is school improvement partner Trevor Arrowsmith. Over the years, they have perfected a particular way of presenting the plan.
You use a grid format, I think, for the main body of the plan. Is that something that you find effective?
Yeah, well, I think one of the difficulties of writing a school improvement plan, I think, is that starting point. What structure, what framework do you use? And I've learnt over the years that there is a particular format which works for me, and clearly that format is something which is manageable, it is succinct, it's able to articulate the needs of the school, and I'd like to think that it is understood by other stakeholders and not just perhaps teachers and the senior team.
In terms of the actual presentation on the page, when we get to the detail of who is doing what by when, then a grid format generally brings certain clarity.
The key things are that they should be clear and concise, specifically on who, what, when and how.
The structure of a SIP can surprise, but so long as there is a logic to it, then it can work.
One that I looked at last week had buildings as the first priority. And I'm challenging and I'm thinking, why buildings when there's a standards issue here? But actually, the way the plan had been structured, it tied into Every Child Matters, and the staying safe was the first one, and that's where the buildings came in. So there was a logic behind it.
We are going to spend a bit of time this morning just brainstorming ideas around that bit of our development plan for next year, which is about...
Philip O'Hare is combining being principal of Capital City Academy with temporary headship of Copeland School in Brent.
Guy, you've revised the teaching and learning policy, you've been thinking about...
In both schools, the SIP values one thing in particular.
We're concentrating on learning, but also actually the change...
The focus of our plan is on learning, because that is the core purpose of a school.
The two schools who have fed back about their perceptions about teaching and learning have...
Philip's SIPs are based on a business structure with 4 particular categories: culture and clients, processes, money and people.
So the culture was culture for learning, the process was teaching for learning, the money was resources for learning, and the people is leading for learning. So we came up with just 5 statements: an overall vision and a mission statement for each of those areas of priority. They've driven a 5-year rolling strategy, and they drive the 1-year development plan. Keeping it simple is absolutely essential. So all I've taken to the board at Capital for next year so far on priorities is this paper. It's 3 sides of A4 long. When we turn it into an operational plan, it'll have a cover like this: the 4 priorities and the key issues sitting under each.
Many of the documents shown here can be found on the Teachers TV website, on the page associated with this programme.
People often have very, very full, complex plans, which means they get distracted from the key direction of the school. So it's bringing them back all the time to thinking, where do you want the school to be in 5 years' time, and what's the journey towards getting that, and then getting that into some key areas that then form the basis for the school development plan.
How it's used to measure how polluted the areas at different times.
My advice would be to have an operational plan alongside a clear school improvement plan that's entirely focused on student achievement in the classroom.
At Whitehall Junior School, head teacher Joanna Nightingale's plan covers both achievement in the classroom and outside. Her initial inspiration came from the school logo.
Our school badge is a bridge, and there are 6 bricks in it. Each of these sections now is a section within our school improvement plan. The cornerstone of the bridge is Every Child Matters, and that says a lot about our plan. fourth brick in the bridge, we wanted to represent the ECM agenda particularly, and we called it caring. Something which came back from the children that they wanted was they wanted to have more of a say in how they could help one another. So we wrote in the plan for us to develop peer mediation.
Who do you normally play with?
The children wanted to be involved in the playground systems themselves. So we went out to find trainers to train the children to become playground leaders and playground friends.
Play 1, 2, 3.
The children are now reviewing what they consider make good games and what they consider make good playtimes.
From a school improvement partner perspective, the delivery of the plan, of course, is all important. And one way that this can be ensured is that there's a clear monitoring arrangement for each aspect of the plan and for each stage of the plan.
It's important that the plans have deadlines for when actions are going to be complete, but it's also really useful to have milestones along the way when the plan can be monitored.
When we first designed the plan, it was important to me that it was manageable, that it wasn't, again, written and just put away. It had to be something which we could come back to at a regular interval and work out how far we were going, because other things come along, things happen which aren't necessarily in your plan. We're now at summer, so let's see where we've got to now, shall we? Okay. And we also timetabled at the end of each term a regular slot, and I hold very dear to that when we can actually review it. They've got to do that again by the end of this term, haven't they?
And then we can track those trends from autumn through to summer.
That's fine.
Okay, so this one's looking...
What we tend to do is to have an evaluation section for each target, and we monitor progress. We have a progress column so that we can just write notes, some very simple little bullet points that say, you know, first half term, this is what we've accomplished. Next half term, this is what we've accomplished.
The plans themselves need to be dynamic, so it's important that they're not set in stone. And as inspectors, I think what we like to see is plans that are written all over, because what that indicates is that the actions themselves have been evaluated, and in the light of that evaluation, the plan's been revised.
So what final tips do our heads and experts have for writing and delivering a successful school improvement plan?
My top tip, I think, is for the head teachers to actually make the most of their school improvement partner by actually having the documentation ready when the visit takes place.
Remember the old adage that less is frequently more.
Keep them simple, get everybody to understand them, and use them as your monitoring and evaluation tool.
Don't make it so lengthy and so unwieldy that it becomes onerous and becomes something that everybody looks at with dread and horror.